we have a very robust panel. We have Tim McCoy on my far left, your far right. We have Rolf Bickert next to Tim. We have Phil Desari from Dupont, and we have John Stropke from Lincoln Electric. So if you would like to begin with an introduction of yourselves, and then we'll throw open to the first question.
So Tim McCoy, I work for a company called Schuler. We're the global leader of innovative metal forming systems. I'm stationed in Canton, Michigan. We have operations pretty much throughout the world. We're a closely held, publicly traded corporation, and we'll do about 1.3 billion euros in sales this year with about 5,600 employees. I've been with Schuler for 26 years and have been in the metal forming industry for a little over 30 years.
My name is Rolf Bickert. I'm the president and CEO of TRUMPF Inc., Farmington, Connecticut. We are a manufacturer of fabricating equipment and industrial lasers. TRUMPF globally is a privately owned German company with more than 2 billion euros in revenue. In North America, we are in the range of 400 plus million annual sales, and we employ more than 600 employees nationwide. We serve all industries related to metal processing, like cutting, welding, bending, punching. All these type of equipment are our products. We are a heavily engineering-driven company, so we have a high speed of innovation. And some of you might know our equipment. If not, we are just across the aisle, so you can visit our booth and see what we do. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Lazzari. I'm with the Dupont company. Dupont is a $30+ billion revenue company globally. I've been with Dupont. I'm a veteran of almost 36 years, and the vast majority of my time has been in the coatings business. And I currently have responsibility for our Powder Coatings Americas business. And powder coating represents approaching $500 million in global revenue.
Hi, I'm John Stropke, the Chairman and CEO of Lincoln Electric Company. We're headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. We're the world's largest producer of arc welding and cutting equipment. Today we operate about 40 manufacturing facilities. We actually produce welding products in 19 different countries around the world. So we have good exposure to the global manufacturing basis. Our company is roughly $3 billion in revenues, and this year we're celebrating our 116th year anniversary.
Very good. Well, the first question that came up in the course of this discussion was, where's the growth? Where do we expect to see expansion? Is there opportunity within a certain industry sector? Are there opportunities in certain parts of the world? Where exactly do we go from here? And this panel has graciously agreed to accept that challenge of trying to read the future a little bit and see where the growth opportunities might lie.
I categorize the growth really in two different ways. One would be geographical growth, and we're seeing very significant growth in the manufacturing basis in the BRIC countries, the emerging markets around the world. And I think that's driven by two factors: the huge movement from people from rural areas into the cities and the great demand that creates on an infrastructure basis, all forms of infrastructure, and then on the energy side. And so as we track what's happening around the world, the predictions for the demand for energy are that they're going to nearly double over the course of the next 20 to 25 years, and that creates a tremendous opportunity for all forms of manufacturing. It's obviously something that we're particularly interested in because most forms of energy require a tremendous amount of welding and metal fabrication.
Likewise, in the Dupont company, we view the emerging regions as a real fertile ground for global growth. At the same time, we're supporting and growing in our developing regions. But when you look at the segments, health and nutrition are very important to DuPont. Alternate energy, communications is certainly a growth area. And then some of the more traditional things like mining, oil and gas exploration, and distribution are still very, very important to DuPont. And then last but not least, safety, security, and protection are three key areas that are critical for DuPont growth.
Well, I think we at TRUMPF Inc. North America, we are really seeing growth opportunities in the North American market in agricultural equipment, energy-related equipment, medical equipment, of course, growing, age of population of older people makes this even more important in the future, I think. However, we see also a consumer product, an increase in demand in consumer products fabricated with our equipment under lower quantities and higher variations, which is really the flexibility which is more required nowadays. In general, we see, of course, the BRIC countries as a growing market opportunities. However, we as a German-owned subsidiary in the US, we have not too much opportunities to go offshore in targeting these markets, but we developed a nice machine in the last few years, which we can sell very, very well to some of these countries. So we are really competing from North America with our headquarters with their products, because the product is exclusively built in the United States at this point.
We actually still see a lot of growth in automotive around the world, and particularly the BRIC nations. There's no question about it. There's been quite a bit of investments made for our type of metal forming equipment there, and we're happy to be there. We do realize we have to temper that potential with a diversification, and particularly agriculture. Also, we see that in the gas and oil exploration pertaining to large pipe fabricating and manufacturing. We see a lot of potential there still.
Is there any comment that you'd like to make on the issue of labor force and skills?
It's a bit of a mirage because there's such high unemployment, and yet the competition for good skilled labor and some of the high tech and the science majors are still critically important to a company like DuPont. So we still recruit very heavily in those competitive areas, but the most qualified candidates are still very tough to attract. So I think it's an interesting situation we're in that you have high unemployment, but the science and engineering majors, the skilled trades such as electricians, welders, boiler makers, those kinds of skilled trades are still in a short supply.
I would agree, absolutely. We have about 70 to 80 engineering people in development, different types like mechanical, electrical, and software engineers. We're urgently trying to hire more, but it's very hard to find them. Of course, we are out in Connecticut, which is maybe not the most attractive place to find these people or to be there, but still it's very difficult, and even more difficult it is to keep the requirement in service people, which have skill sets which are electrical, software, and mechanical in one person, and also communication skills required with our customers. So we are right now, out of our 600 active employees, we have about 70 open positions to hire, and can't really find the people, which is maybe a topic which needs to be discussed in a different panel, how to attract people, young people, for these type of job requirements.
I'd say it's about the same too. We're probably in a shortage of about 10% of the workforce. We find the same situation today. We try to maintain prudently and judiciously an apprentice type program. We do that globally. I know a lot of the companies do that, but we have to be very careful with that in order to remain competitive. But we have to have a means by which we're training people. So we try to create and encourage all the companies, manufacturing companies in particular, to try to create that best possible environment. It's also about keeping people and training people. But I do think there is a vast shortage of particularly skilled workers, no question about it, and maybe not so much in engineering, but in skilled workers. We see a real shortage coming from vocational schools and or an effort to create those type of schools. There are some examples. Southwest Illinois was just received an award for that yesterday, and There are some engineering schools that are creating special programs, like Oakland University has a group called ClickForm, just for engineering students to go into the metal forming business. So there are very small pockets of this, but it needs to really expand in order for us to keep up with the demand.
There's a dichotomy that exists today that more and more children are going to schools of upper education. They graduate, they don't have jobs, and the skilled jobs are going unfilled because people haven't thought of those as being attractive type of jobs, even though the compensation might be more than it would be if they were, lower level professionals in a white collar type of job. So, it's interesting walking around our side of the show is that every year you see more and more trends towards automation. And the trends towards automation provide, I think, the best of both worlds, in that the person still has to be skilled in the art of welding, but they don't have the physical demands of the welding. And obviously you can get a lot more productivity associated with that. So one person can do the work of 3 or 4, which is a requirement, I think, in order to keep manufacturing healthy in the United States, because of the huge labor differentials that exist with the cost here and the benefit programs and the uncertainty over things like health care and wage packages versus that you can get in one of the emerging markets where there's much more demand labor available to solve the needs that people have for their tasks.
But I think most politicians will talk about how important manufacturing is until it's time to step up and really do something about it in terms of proper tax structure, relief pressure from places like the EPA or OSHA, and creating regulations that are very, very challenging for us to deal with. And at some point in time, you just give up and say, I can go deal with this someplace else a lot more attractively.
We participate through the Precision Metal Forming Association as an advocacy branch of the association to serve all the members, and we participate in visiting with congressional representatives in Washington, D.C. once a year. And it is really quite enlightening to take that time and to understand what is known and really how much is not known in Washington, D.C. It's really quite a bit. But I have to say we generally get a pretty good reaction with face-to-face meetings. But it takes having a lobbyist group, it takes a lot of follow-up, it takes some investment to do that. I've found there's been quite a good reaction in those kinds of meetings. But there's some spots that let's say certain politicians that don't get it. It's true. We are seeing some type of reaction. We're hoping for more tax reform in particular. That's probably the most important thing I see on the horizon for corporations.